Completed chapter 1, which was the introduction. So let's move on to chapter 2 before you begin. Social media marketing needs to be handled carefully if you hope to get the most out of it. Many marketers and businesses just jump on social media sites and start creating profiles. That's the wrong way to go. Instead, you need to do a little prep work. Before you begin with social media, you need to make sure you know what you're doing. Consistency is the key. If you are going to create social media profiles to build a brand, to promote a business or a band, or create awareness for a charity or social movement, you must remain consistent across every platform you decide to use. This means consistency in the following: domain, brand, and username, avatar or images, targeted audience, and tone and style of voice. Make a note that all of this information could change somewhere down the line. We'll get to that later. However, no matter what changes, it must remain consistent across all platforms if you want the most people to recognize you, or your brand, or what you're trying to accomplish. Domain, brand, and usernames. Before you come up with a name for your project, you should make a list of domains and usernames that you plan to use. Then use a service like Noam, which allows you to search over 400 social media sites and 40 domain names to make sure your domain, brand, or username isn't already being used. It allows you to choose the domain, brands, and usernames so that they can remain consistent across every social media network you choose. There is also a subscription service that allows you to protect your domains, brands, and usernames from being used once your flag is planted. You can also use Noam to see how your business, product, or usernames are being used across the internet. Once you have a list of names you're going to use, only use those names from this time on. Avatar or images. You will want to create a standard avatar, image, or logo that you'll see on all the profiles you create. This must remain consistent so that people can recognize whom you represent in one glance. This should be used as the profile image for every single network. Here are some avatar tips. Use a white or neutral background. Don't try too hard to stand out. Just be consistent and use recognizable, memorable avatars. Don't use celebrity images, copyrighted images, or abstracts. Register and upload your avatar with Gravatar so that your avatar appears next to your comments on blogs and other social media sites. KISS, K-I-S-S. Keep it simple, stupid. Targeted audience. You must know whom you're trying to target and where they are likely to hang out on the internet. Don't just assume that you already know who your targeted audience is or what they're about. If you hope to develop a working social strategy, the entire thing rests on the fact of whether or not you know who you're marketing to. You also need to know what your targeted audience needs and what value you can add to their lives to make them pay attention to you. The best way to do that is to listen. Listening. As an internet marketer, you never consider a niche until you've done the proper research. Likewise, your keywords are well researched if you know what you're doing. That same research effort needs to be put into social media marketing. Before you get started with social media marketing, make sure you research to see what people is talking about and where your targeted audience tends to congregate. The best way to do that is to do a search for your niche, brand, charity, band, or anything else you're trying to promote. Then just listen and observe. Try to learn as much as you can from the conversations and use this information to create your social media blueprint that includes where to become active and also what tone and style of voice to use. Use tools like Google Blog Search, Technorati, Board Reader, or similar services to use words or phrase to find out what conversations are taking place. However, don't just listen to your targeted audience. Listen to others in your industry, including your competition. Here's a good tip. Seek out fresh content from blogs and other news services with RSS feeds, which will save tons of time. Let's talk about the tone and style of voice. Your conversations and your interactions are the very core of your social media marketing strategy. Therefore, you need to be prepared to engage in conversation with your target audience. This means you have to plan a consistent tone and style of voice, as well as some specific parameters before you type even one word into any social media platform. Remember, most big businesses fail in social media because they don't know how to communicate with the average person. They only know marketing and advertising methods. People will quickly become annoyed with any marketing, advertising, or sales pitch on a social media site. That means if you use these techniques in your communications, your image can become tarnished or you can become banned completely. Luckily, I'm going to offer some tips so that you don't run into any trouble as far as choosing your style and tone of voice. Here are some tips to get you started. Number 1, develop a style and personality that's consistent with the image you're trying to convey. Your tone, the content you use, the language you use should all be tailored according to what your target audience uses. Try to speak to people as if they were your best friends or they're sitting across the table from you. Never think of your contacts as customers, or else you'll be selling to them in no time, even if it's subconscious impulse. Keep things personal and humanized, and you'll be better off. Number 2, always be honest with your communications. You must be honest about who you are and what you represent at all times. The thing about social media is that it's all connected. Don't assume that something you say on one network won't be found out on other networks, especially if your social media marketing campaign is successful. Any lies or misconceptions you propagate are going to come back to bite you, and that's a quick way to kill any headway you make with social media marketing. Number 3, establish your communication rules early. You need to have some firm rules in place of what you will and won't tolerate when it comes to social media networks. This could include abusive comments, inappropriate language, etc. Number 4, don't use social media for corporate communication purposes. Never send out company updates or other business matters, and never talk about finances on a social media network. This is going to quickly annoy your contacts, and this could tarnish your image permanently in their eyes. Number 5, while consistency is the key to social media marketing, you need to understand how each platform works and tailor your campaign accordingly. You may have a different type of audience on one platform as another, and so your tone of voice and style may change. So only change your strategy if your audience demands it and responds accordingly to it. Number 6, absolutely no selling. This can't be reiterated enough. You want to keep your communications short, relevant, and to the point. And most of all, be creative. You're not only on social media to self-promote, you're there to share information and knowledge. You're there to gain the trust of your target audience, and you want them to see you as an authority in your niche or field. If you try using a sales pitch on your contacts, you're not going to have many contacts left before long. Instead, engage customers on a customer service level or engage them in some type of debate related to what you're doing. People will see you in a much more positive light, and they'll want to keep up with what you're doing. They'll want to engage in you. Use your personality and you'll go much further. Try to be a salesman and you'll fall flat on your avatar's face. Number 7, never ignore feedback. This is another crucial one. When people become your contacts, they demand transparency. Again, anything you say on social media can be held against you several times over. So never try to come up with negativity by deleting comments or by pretending to be someone else. Social media users are extremely savvy, and using tactics such as these will quickly be discovered. Therefore, engaging in any sort of mischief will tarnish your reputation amongst your audience, which is the last thing you want to do. Instead, strike up a conversation by asking questions and make sure you follow up and always respond. You should expect to spend a lot of time cultivating your social media network relationships. They're not like websites where you can just set them up and leave them alone. You must speak to your audience, respond to their comments and questions, and you must keep up with how your brand is perceived and discussed by others. Even one slip up can result in an irreparable damage to your company or organization's image or brand. It's not worth it. If you're not going to participate in conversations, you're better off not having a social media campaign at all. For once, you lose control of the conversations about you and what you're trying to do. There's no getting it back. Analyzing and changing. When it comes to consistency, you need to make sure you keep track of every detail. Then you must analyze the data you glean from your tracking efforts. This can be used to tailor your campaigns to better fit your audience. Whatever changes you make, whether they be to your avatar, your slogan, or your tone and style of voice, you need to stick with that until it's time to change. Whenever possible, keep changes to a minimum so as to avoid brand confusion. But we'll talk more about that later when we get into how to analyze your data. Let's go over an action plan. First, create a domain, brand, and usernames. Go to know them. Make sure your names are original and available. Work on your avatar or images. Create an avatar that's appropriate and that fits your brand. Locate your targeted audience. Listen in on social networks. Use programs like Google Blog Finder to see what people are discussing. Find out what people are talking about within your niche, about your product or your brand. Discover your tone and style of voice. Gauge the tone and style of voice your audience uses in their regular communications. If you talk like them, they'll be more likely to connect with you and your brand. Here's a helpful hint. Be consistent, professional, honest, transparent, and never try to sell. Just be social and do it in a way that causes people to take notice of you and your brand.